Last year, I started working on my channel with the goal to explore collaboration in innovation management, promote collaborative projects for solving scientific and business challenges, talk more about the importance of co-creation and collaboration in research and development, and in general, help different members of all the different organizations like companies, universities, startups, government, organizations that are focused on standards development and intellectual property, and others to understand each other better, to find a way to more effective collaboration. And in 2024, I conducted 5 interviews with experts from different organizations, and I had even more discussions that were not captured on my camera. That's not a lot, I know, and I hope that in the future I will be able to do more interviews and do them more frequently and invite more guests from all the different organizations. But still, all the interviews from 2024 are experts in their fields with decades of experience, and I'm really grateful to each and every one of them for sharing their expertise. And I want to talk about 9 main takeaways that I got out for myself from these interviews. Some of them are more general, some are more specific, but all of them are connected to managing innovations and collaborative research projects. There were more insights and more interesting information that every expert shared, but I had to limit myself. 9 takeaways is already a lot, and I guess I exceeded the typical top 5, but I just was not able to stop when I was thinking about them. So yeah, anyway, hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa and I spent 5 years organizing collaborative university competitions for world well-known companies to solve their extreme innovation challenges, and now I continue my journey with the goal to foster innovation by helping different parties of the innovation process collaborate and co-create. On this channel, I explore collaboration projects for innovation management, share my experience in managing these projects and processes, and uncover strategies for making collaboration efforts more effective. And the takeaway number 1 that I took from the interviews with experts is trust is number 1 priority in collaborative innovation projects. So this is probably one thing that was mentioned by pretty much everyone, every expert that I talked to, and it may sound like it's something pretty obvious, but it has such an immense importance in collaborative projects. It needs to be mentioned in the first place. And I know that many companies in the industry, especially large companies, they have been working on their relationships with universities for a long time, and they work with certain research teams and they work with technology transfer offices. They build this connection, they build this trust that is needed. But the truth is, we don't know everyone. And when it comes to solving some tough challenges and coming up with radical innovations, you need to cooperate with teams you have never worked with before. And here, trust becomes a big challenge. And it's quite difficult, I think, to build trust during collaborative innovation projects when you invite another party to do research together when you have never worked with them before. And in projects that I work on, usually we invite really various universities and various research teams to collaborate because we have projects in different areas, and often we have to build a relationship, build this trust during the project, not even before it starts. Of course, with some universities it's different, because with some universities and with some teams we have worked on a number of projects, and I know that they're going to do a great job and they will do their best. I know how these people work, and I know that I can trust them, and I know that they will be amazing in their project, but it's quite difficult. It really takes time, to build this trust with new partners. And I believe that this is the main challenge for any collaborative project facilitator, to establish this trust. And that's why I personally spend so much time to learn about how to make it happen, how to build this environment when parties can start trusting each other. And that's why I'm also trying to always be my true self, I'm not trying to hide. There is no corporate Lisa. Lisa that you see on the screen is Lisa that you're gonna see in real life. This is who I am, and because it is important for me as the facilitator to be open so that companies can trust me and universities can trust me and other research teams or other organizations to trust me, because then it will be easier for me to kind of establish this connection between other parties as well. Also, when it comes to building this trust, I believe that it's important to meet offline, and it's really great that the tough times are over and we can travel again and we can meet again. So when you organize a collaborative innovation project, it's great if you can meet your partners offline, and if you can do it more often, you should do it more often and communicate with them not only about the project itself but about other interests too, like what you are interested in, like your hobbies and like what you do in your free time, what excites you. I think that this will also help to establish this connection, and I believe this is also why it's important to visit different conferences and events and organize meetings when researchers and managers and like all these different parties can meet each other and just talk, just communicate. Also, if you want to establish trust with new research partners, it maybe make sense to also start working with the new team on a small project, not investing all in straight away, do a small project. And it's quite interesting actually, because literally yesterday I was watching the episode from Star Trek The Next Generation, and the crew of the Starship Enterprise with Captain Picard, they met another civilization, Ferengi, and they had to deal with a common problem together, and Captain Picard suggested to do a collaboration project together, collaboration research project together. So I was like, it was really curious for me to hear about it in Star Trek. So yeah, maybe you just need to go all in and take this risk and start a small project with the new team. Of course, there is no need to work with someone like Ferengi. They cannot be trustworthy, and you understand it straight away. But with other teams, and that you can feel that you can trust and can feel that the connection is kind of forming, and just try something and do together. But anyway, it's always about taking a risk when you trust someone, of course, and that's how this takeaway is kind of magically connected to the last takeaway that I'm going to talk about later. The next takeaway that I want to talk about is process is important. I was talking to Joaquin Prado, who helps organizations to develop standards. And development of standards means being involved in collaboration with a number of companies, a number of competing companies, which makes everything quite challenging and quite complicated. Just think about it for a moment. You have to work with your competitors, and you need to find this common ground. You need to find this consensus among all these companies, and each and every company has their own goal. So there is obviously, if we're talking about collaboration and if we're talking about learning from someone about collaboration, I believe there is no better organization that can teach you collaboration than a standard development organization. And here, what Joaquin mentioned in his interview is that a well-established process is essential for success. I've been talking a lot about having a process, about having a well-structured process for collaboration projects, but here I want to highlight it once again. You need to have a clear goal, and you need to have clear steps that you must follow in order to make progress and in order to achieve this goal that you have. And honestly, I'm quite a rebellious person, at some point, and I hate the process for the sake of the process. And I believe that the processes, they should exist for people to make our life easier. And sometimes I know that we need to be flexible and that we need to change the process that exists. But in order to change it, we actually need to have it in place. So, it's really essential in collaboration to have a plan and know when and how you are moving. You cannot for example, constantly get back to requirements, to establishing and defining these requirements and change these requirements that you have. Your project will never end. You cannot constantly get back to the previous point because someone says that you need to do it, you need to follow the process and you need to go step by step. And the same goes literally for any collaborative project that involve your organization and the other organization. Like, you have your management processes or your operation processes in place for your company, for your inner activities. So when it comes to collaboration, there is no difference here. You need to have a clear plan. Otherwise, well, you will just waste your resources and you will never get what you're looking for. So once again, a well-established process helps to avoid mess and get to the successful end of your project. Takeaway number 3 is about making it simple. And this is something that we discussed with Rob Kirschbaum in his interview about open innovation. When Rob was talking about the open innovation model they introduced at DSM, he mentioned that it was just a one-pager that they developed. It was a simple yet absolutely beautiful scheme, which is really easy to understand and really easy to remember. And it took me just one time to look at this scheme to be able to reproduce it in my mind. I believe that it really helps to get everyone on board with the idea of open innovation, with the idea of collaboration, or whatever idea that you have in mind. And when decisions need to be made, team members, they will remember the system the organization uses, and it will be easier for them to make these decisions, And the company will be able to operate in a more efficient way, because let's be honest, innovation activities are already too complicated. You need to create something entirely new, and it can never be simple. And adding this complexity to the process, it just may switch focus from important research activities to the process itself. And this is something that we want to avoid. And again, as I said, I believe that processes exist to simplify our lives. We don't want them to be too complex. And I was also thinking about it with regard to some research that it's becoming too harder to read academic writing, especially in social sciences. And while personally I think that it's great to have a challenge, I cannot stop thinking whether it's really necessary to complicate things, If we want to make something available to a wide circle of people, we need to make it simple. Takeaway number 4, which is opposition is necessary. This insight was taken from the interview with Dr. Rolf Albach, and I absolutely love it. Don't get me wrong, I love all the takeaways, but I've been thinking about this one for a while, and I'm thinking about it every time when I read some diverse opinions on the internet, or when I stumble upon an opinion that contradicts my own beliefs. We were talking about this takeaway in the context of policies, but Rolf mentioned that he finds it important to have a position in companies and business. And it's an extremely important takeaway for collaborative innovation projects, because innovations, they are often not accepted by people around initially. They're not welcomed by managers, and they're not welcomed by the majority, and the majority and managers, they can be wrong. They are often wrong. And I believe there some research exists that provide this evidence, and you can find a lot of evidence yourself, a lot of evidence of this fact with some big inventions that happen. And that's why it's extremely important to hear the opposite to your own or to people's in your company's beliefs and views, just to know, just to have this option, to know that there is another opinion that exists, that the solution that you and your team consider useless can actually solve your problem and can bring your companies to success. We as humans, we want to hear and we want to support information that supports our own views, our own beliefs. We want to hear from someone who agrees with us. And when someone has another opinion, we may consider this person just, I'm sorry, but an idiot straight away, and it closes us from useful, beneficial information. It's something that you can see a lot on the internet nowadays, I believe. And that's why I think this takeaway is extremely important, is extremely valuable, both for collaborative innovation projects and for life in general. But in order to make innovation, in order to create innovative solutions, we need to be open to opposite opinions and opposite views. It's not about agreeing with them, it's about knowing that they exist, processing, analyzing them, and maybe accepting them, maybe accepting that another person, they have something in their view and in their opinion, and it's about challenging our own beliefs, which is important, and this is how we grow, and this is also how we innovate. Because basically, if we think about it this way, every innovation challenges our old beliefs. Another important takeaway number 5, industry needs people that would solve their problem. So this is something that I also took from the interview with Dr. Rolf Albach, but also from the interview with Thomas Zadnicek. And for me, because I'm involved in collaborative projects, these projects are always about real solutions for certain challenges, for certain problems, something that can be implemented, something that can be commercialized. It used to always kind of be obvious to me that if you have a challenge and criteria to be met, teams that are involved in such projects, they should provide solutions according to these criteria. They should always work on keeping these criteria in mind. And of course, because our clients are actually industry players, they are always coming from the business side. We talk to them, we talk about requirements, we decide on these requirements together with them, emphasizing the importance of scaling solutions and using, for example, manufacturing methods that the client company already uses. And sometimes it's about very specific methods for machinery that the client company has. So it's always very, very specific. But the fact, that this is such a big issue for companies to get a prototype to work with when they collaborate, for example, with universities, it always slipped away from my mind because, I don't know, I just didn't see a bigger picture. Because again, in our projects, it's always about practice, about practical solutions. So that's why I want to highlight this takeaway, especially for academic researchers who might be watching it now, who might be watching this video now, who want to work with the industry. Obviously, projects in the university labs are more creative and maybe more fun to do, and writing a publication for a scientific journal should be enough to advance your career. And thinking about scaling and having too many restrictions is not fun, and it's just too much, However, let's be real. If you want your invention to be used by thousands and millions of people across the world, working with the industry, working with companies is essential. It is the only way, and it's not a bad thing, it's not a bad thing to work with the industry. And I do think that finding a way of how your amazing idea can be implemented in order to solve a very real and practical problem, it can be fun. And it's it's an interesting challenge by itself. It's great to be creative. But when it comes to collaboration with the industry, this creativity, it has some constraints, which is totally fine. It's totally okay. And again, it can be fine and you can still be creative with these practical solutions. Takeaway number 6, and this takeaway is connected to the previous one. We need to bridge the gap between academia and industry. And this is something that I've been thinking a lot last year, and I continue thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure that I will continue thinking about it and hopefully doing something to solve it in the future as well. In principle, there are different ways we can use in order to bridge this gap between academia and industry, and first of all, I'm talking about startups, of course. So for example, we have a team of researchers, of academic researchers, and they found an interesting solution to a big problem, and they want to bring this idea, this solution to mass production. They want to bring this solution to the industry, to any industrial company that can help them scale it. What can they do? They can launch a startup. Initially, they can launch a startup, but let's be real, launching a startup is not an easy thing, especially in Europe. When you launch a startup, it's not only about scaling the idea and starting production. It's not simple, especially when it comes to scientific innovations like hard science, chemistry, materials, all the things that are connected to actually producing something. It's a very complex thing. First of all, you need to become a manager and you need to be able to focus on so many different things. You need to become a manager, you need to become an accountant, a human resources expert, a marketer, a sales manager, a financial director, and more. And imagine you are an academic researcher. I doubt that a lot of academic researchers really want to do that. It's not easy, Then it's about capital, then it's about funding, which is, again, not easy to get. It's not like with software startups, for example, when you have an idea, you just need a computer to develop this idea into a solution and create like a software platform or something like that and start kind of promoting it and getting users. With science-based startups, you need resources to produce things. So you need money initially, and then there are regulations, and that's why I mentioned that it's more difficult in Europe, because there are many regulations that you need to follow, and then it's difficult to find team members and many more other things that you need to keep in mind when you are launching a startup. I'm pretty sure that any person that tried to start something new and do their own thing, they know about how difficult it is, and they would agree with me. So it is challenging, and it's a challenging way to bridge this gap that I'm talking about between industry and academia. Then another way that we have that exists right now is technology transfer offices. And to me, this is a very interesting topic, which we discussed with Thomas Zadnicek in his interview. Technology transfer offices are supposed to play a big role in bridging this gap between academia and industry. But if I'm being honest, when I work with universities, I rarely work with technology transfer offices. Yes, for things like IP or agreements that we need to sign, we might discuss those with them. Not always, even not always we do that, I often just stay in touch with the professor from the team I'm working with, But I will not contact a technology transfer office when I need a team for the project. It's just not effective for me. And to me, I think it's just absolutely illogical to have technology transfer offices in universities, because there is no point, for them to do anything at all to make academia and industry work together. I don't see motivation for them as a part of the university, because let's be honest, universities, they do not depend on the industry, do not depend a lot on the industry. Maybe sometimes they are, and maybe in some countries, but in general, they have their own processes and their own funding and their own capital, And then, we take this motivation aside. Let's say we have a new technology that the university research team has. And the technology transfer office starts looking for industry partners. But the gap is still there, and this gap is in the fact that many technologies produced by academia should be ready for scaling, and they are not ready for scaling. And the technology transfer office doesn't help with that, it helps with connections. So I don't know, like it's maybe I'm missing something here when it comes to technology transfer offices. But, if I'm missing something, just please let me know. But I definitely need to organize an interview with someone who works at the technology transfer office. But then, apart from technology transfer offices and startups, we have another thing. So when I went to Münster for an annual meeting of the Association for Chemistry and Economics, there was a representative of Fraunhofer Research Institution for Battery Cell Production, FFB, and they are working on a project, an extremely interesting project in my opinion, which is a pilot plant for batteries in order to help scale up these scientific discoveries in batteries. And I do really hope that this project will grow further as it's planned for it, because I think that we need to have more projects like that, in other areas as well. And batteries, of course, it would be great to have more projects like that in batteries, but in other areas too. It's extremely interesting, and we need to ensure that we have investments for them. We need industrial players to be interested. We also need funds, I don't think we can fully rely on government on that. I mean, it's great that government helps, but we really need to have some venture funds interested in such projects, maybe even like international partners. I think, why not? But yeah, I mean, it's quite challenging nowadays, but I'm really hopeful about this project and having more projects like that. Because in general, again, one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing this channel, and why I continue working on collaborative innovation projects is because I want to help to bridge this gap between academia and industry, and I'm interested in finding more ways to do that, So let's see. I'm really looking forward to the future, and I hope that this problem will be solved. And the next takeaway I want to discuss is that more than 90% of the patents some companies are filing are never used. And this is the one takeaway from an interview with Dr. Christoph Appert. And, it's not that I didn't know that many patents are not used. Like, I knew that, and it might be, of course, it might be different for different companies and different industries. That's why I'm not saying that, 90% of all patents are never used, of course, but the numbers in general are quite shocking, right? And I don't have a lot to say about this takeaway. It's just an interesting statistics, and, maybe for someone watching this video, it might be useful to know that, sometimes you need to file a patent, and it doesn't mean that you will definitely use it. But as we all live, and especially companies, they live in a competitive environment, they need to protect their inventions, and even if you don't use it straight away, you might be able to use this patent in the future, or maybe you will be able to still make some money with licensing, So this is just an interesting fact that I wanted to mention here. And in general, this intellectual property area is quite an interesting area for me. And I'm really curious to see how it is going to change in the future, especially with AI and implications that AI and other technologies have for this area. Again, blockchain, I believe, might really change this area a lot. And yeah, because nowadays it's still relying on a lot of old school methods. So let's see, it's going to be quite interesting to watch how it's going to develop. And maybe in the future more patents will be used. You never know. And how these patents that companies file can be used for further development of new products, and how they can be used for, I don't know, like internal AI for companies also. Then the next takeaway that is also connected to intellectual property and intellectual property rights is that you need to negotiate the IP rights before the start of the project. Specifically, who will get these IP rights. Again, it's not like I ever thought it was possible to do otherwise. Like in my experience, the way that we do in our projects, we start the project with a client and we discuss the IP. Usually all clients, they get the IP from our projects, from the hackathons, you know. When it comes to looking for teams, looking for research teams to take part, to participate in our projects, we always mention it to them that the client, the company wants to own the IP, right? The owns the patent, you know. And again, I just want to highlight this point that we discussed with Dr. Christoph Appert, and it's something that every company should remember. If some innovation managers that work for companies that work with or want to start working with university teams, they watch this video, you need to remember that obviously in most cases you want to have this patent at the end of the project. It's totally fine, you need it. However, there are many cases when the university will not allow you to do that, will not allow you to own a patent, or they would require you to pay a lot of money for this patent, or some conditions regarding this patent might not be suitable for you. This is something that you need to discuss on the way. Who owns the patent? What are the conditions? For example, you want to use this patent and to own it only for your area of expertise, the area of your product, and you might allow the university to use it to file a patent for other areas. It might be a solution in some cases. So this is something that you just need to remember. And if you're not going to do that, you may find yourself in a not very good position at the end of the project, you know, and you'll need to pay much more money, where it won't be possible for you to own the patent, you know. So you're going to waste your money on the project. The last takeaway that I want to bring is, without risk, you will never be rich. This is a take from the interview with Rob Kirschbaum, and it's not like it's something new. It's a common thing. I'm pretty sure that everyone is talking about it, everyone heard about it. But I believe that this takeaway is just a good one for the end of the video. And startups take a lot of risks, you know, but I believe that large companies and industry leaders, they also need to remember about it, especially nowadays when everything is changing. And I know that for large companies it's difficult to take risks. They have their own processes. They're responsible for thousands of people who work for them. They are responsible for their numbers. They are responsible for their revenue and their stakeholders as well. They have so many responsibilities, and it's completely understandable that they don't want to risk it. They don't want to lose it, you know. And like losing, I don't know, a couple of percent. It's a lot for such companies, you know. Too much is at stake for them. But sometimes it's something that is really important to do. And I also had a private conversation with Dr. Christoph Appert about it. And he mentioned that one of the companies he worked for, they took a risk to build a new product and they won. They just, you know, they decided to do it and they won. It's not always going to happen, unfortunately. And many of us and many companies might lose when they risk. So it should be calculated, but you know, innovation is about taking risk. Collaboration is about taking risk. Our life, you know, doing business and growing companies, you know, It's about taking this risk. It's about crossing this line and leaving the old limits behind. So, as I said, the world is changing with new technologies, with AI, the way that countries operate, new governments, unexpected things are happening every day. We do not live in the world that is stable. The world is changing constantly. And I believe that despite the fact that we are all scared to take risks, it's necessary for the new world, for innovation to happen, for new breakthroughs. Now, in the end, I just want to say that I feel like we should talk more about innovation management and the way it is done in different companies, how decisions are made in different companies. We need to be able to openly share our practices, our methods, approaches, how we do things. Because, even within one company, things can be done differently in different departments. And we have to learn from each other to find a way to better manage innovation, to be able to get the result that we want, to increase our chances of making breakthroughs and making new great things together. That's how it works, and that's how it is going to work in the future. I hope this video was useful. Maybe you learned something new for this. Maybe I gave you some food for thought, to come up with some ideas or just to think about it, I wish you all, your families, your businesses, your endeavors, success and prosperity in 2025. I wish you new inventions, new innovative products and solutions that bring you success, that bring you revenue, that bring you what you're looking for, and that take us one step ahead, that take the whole humanity one step ahead. I wish you a great day. Bye!